Welcome to NEK VT Rocks. My guest today is Andrea Carbine, and we're going to talk about Pine Hill Kitchens.
Great, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. What is Pine Hill Kitchen, other than your home?
Pine Hill Kitchen is my home, and that's where the name comes from. But Pine Hill Kitchen is a cooking school, essentially. And just a place where it started off with children and really came from the inspiration of my son loving to cook. I used to be a culinary arts instructor at the Career Center, and my roles there have changed, so this still allows me to play in the kitchen.
So you're not playing in the kitchen there anymore?
No, I'm doing full-time work-based learning coordinating there, so I'm putting students out on authentic job experiences related to their programs that they take at the Career Center.
Well, that sounds great. However, you like to cook.
I do like to cook, and like I said, it started sort of on a whim. We were calling, my nieces came to stay with me, and we were saying, come to Camp Carbine, come to Camp Carbine. And so the four of them, I was making fruit tarts a few summers ago, and my kitchen was a disaster, and it was, but they had these great little tarts, and they really were involved, and it was just a lot of fun. You can clean up the mess, but it's great memories for them, and the wheels started turning, and
then the rest
Pine Hill
evolved.
Kitchen has evolved.
So how old is your son that's really interested in cooking?
It's my youngest son, Rowan, and he just turned 5 in January, but he's been in the kitchen with me for a while. But it's interesting because through all of this and seeing some friends, my older son has started to take more of an interest as well. I think he doesn't want to be left out.
So soon you're going to be able to step out of the kitchen.
Sure, I hope.
And are you going to rent your kids out? Because I'd be happy to have 2 little chefs.
Yeah, I know. Maybe down the road.
Yeah. When I first saw something in writing about this, and it was probably a Facebook post, maybe on your page, something like that, my first thought was, wow, what a fabulous idea. Because kids like food. And what a great opportunity to teach them about nutrition and fun and quality ingredients as opposed to Pop-Tarts. Yes,
I think that's one thing that I was unaware of when I started teaching culinary at the Career Center is that kids don't know much about cooking. A lot of kids do, but a lot of kids don't know how to make toast, how to make mac and cheese out of the box. So if we can even get away from that and teach them about those things, about nutrition, which something I'm also very passionate about, and about fresh food. And I know last summer I did a couple classes last May just to sort of see if the idea would take off. And then last summer did a few more. We have a garden at our house, so we would go and see what was in the garden and pick it and then do things with it. So just to kind of teach kids the farm to table aspect of things and how much better things taste when they're fresh.
Oh, and it's so true, because probably you grew up, I certainly grew up eating from our gardens. And the sad thing is a lot of kids don't. And I'm sure there's a lot of reasons for that. Geography, for one.
Yes, I think a lot of kids don't. But I think it is something that is you're starting to see more of. You're seeing, the farm to school, and you're seeing schools with gardens, and seeing different, the farm to school program go into the schools and teach kids. So I think they're starting to have some of that education, but it's been a lot of fun for me. I like to do it. It doesn't feel like work. It's just a good time. So it's been
I know you
fun.
Started with kids, and for obvious reasons, but I also saw in the Facebook posts the adult envy there. What about us? What about us? And I admit I felt some of that myself. And I see you've been doing some classes for adults.
When I started, the children was where my head was at. And that was also trying to, figure out what age age groups were the best, were sort of in my wheelhouse. And
Yeah.
I did some really young ones, and I think I found out that just because I like to cook with my 5-year-old, I don't know if 5 is the right age group for all. So it's been 8 to 13 or so, and I'm still toying with that. But I had a lot of adults who, oh, you should do this for adults. And so I started asking the questions, what would you want to cook? And what do you see the class being? And we have done 2 classes at Pine Hill Kitchen for adults. We did a back to New Year's resolutions with some revamping and inspiring yourself after a few months into the new year with some healthy cooking ideas. And then we did one that focused on some Super Bowl apps as well. So there will be more adult classes coming.
Yeah.
So.
Which classes do you have in mind?
Right now, the last class that I have scheduled at the moment is on March 21st. It is a kids class. It's a Mexican fiesta class. We're going to do pozole, and we're going to do homemade tortillas and all sorts of fun things. But I am working on, and my goal is to, by April vacation of school, to have the next push and the next batch of classes out. I'm also working on a website right now, so Pine Hill Kitchen does have a website coming, and again, my goal is to push that out and have it ready for the middle of April. So about a month, you should see some more classes and the website coming.
Now that you're a quote administrator at your institution, does that mean you don't get the wonderful school vacations anymore?
Well, I'm not an administrator, actually. My role is more flexible. Certainly, as a work-based learning coordinator, I don't have classroom, like every day a class, but I do teach all the students. Right now we're working on interview skills because we have the interview day coming up that we do every year at the Career Center. But I do still hold the teacher's contract and thankfully have all my time with my kiddos.
So you could really grow this.
Yeah, that's the hope.
It would be great.
So that, as I've discovered my passion for cooking, and then, obviously my passion for music and just different passions of mine, there's a bigger mission than just fulfilling my wants and needs, but how does this benefit our community?
Right.
And I think, although my son really loves to cook, there's also a need that it's fulfilling, because I have one son who's very into sports, and that need is that's very well filled. There are lots of sports teams, there are lots for him to do, but I'm looking for things for my little guy to do, and there just aren't as many things out there. And he's still young, and he may play sports, but I know with Alyssa, is it Delabrier, who used to teach art lessons? I don't really know her all that well, but my youngest is big into art, and so I thought cooking might fill some of that need for those kids who are not into the traditional sports and things as well.
And certainly fulfill a lot of their social needs.
Absolutely.
In a way that they can feel really good and they're producing something, and hopefully getting a lot of recognition, producing something that's delicious.
Yeah, they go home with all of the things that we make, providing that we didn't eat it all during the class.
You
but
have to taste it.
Right?
That's part of the fun.
We do try. This last class was very dessert heavy, so we tasted things, but they went home with a lot more. When there's more of a meal, I also think it's important to have that sit-down experience.
Yeah.
So at the end of class, we try and build in time where we can sit and taste and talk about what we think went right and what we could have changed, and just have that coming together.
That's really sophisticated in a lot of ways, because people tend to slap food in front of little kids with the expectation that they'll either eat it or they won't, as opposed to sort of looking constructively at what's on the plate. How did it get there? How did it get prepared?
And I think a big piece from me too is that I come from, my background is sort of I started off in catering, and it was 5-star. It was things that I wasn't used to seeing, and the refinement of it all, and just teaching kids, how do we make this so it doesn't just taste good, but it looks good, because as we all know, we eat with our eyes first.
Absolutely, and by smell too.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, how do we teach the refinement of taste? How do you know when something is really good or just good?
Well, I think that it's you continually improve your palate,
Right.
and you learn that by doing, by
Yeah.
tasting, and
Yeah.
by doing it again and again and again.
And
Um,
experimenting.
and experimenting for
Yeah.
sure, and learning the flavors. You know, is this sour? Is this bitter? I poured my son a little bit of grapefruit juice to try, and he sort of likes it, but he's like, well, it's bitter, right, Mom? Bitter, is that? Yeah, I said it's not so much sour as it is. So just teaching
Yeah.
those different tastes is also.
Yeah.
I
Well, this
think
would be
big.
wonderful to teach at the elementary school.
Yeah, and I think that
They have a great kitchen too.
yeah, there is some great work being done. I know I used to waitress at the Belvedere, and where my kids go to school at Derby Elementary School, and they're fortunate enough to have Jason Marcoux, who used to be the
Right.
chef at the Belvedere, as their chef in the kitchen. So
Yeah.
he does a lot with the kids' culinary competitions and junior Iron Chef, and so I think there's a lot more of it out there than there once was, and kids are starting to experience that
I
at a
didn't
younger
realize
age.
he'd gone there.
Yeah, he was in Holland, and then
Yeah.
he moved over to Derby this year
So-
maybe.
That would be somebody who would probably be really open to you coming in and your Pine Hill kitchen teaching a class there.
Yeah, he's been great, and Jason's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
We've collaborated in the past when I was teaching cooking at the Career Center, the intro classes there. He would come in. He came in and broke down a big char one day, a big Arctic char, and
Yeah.
so he's great. He would be certainly open to collaborating. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
God, this could go in so many different ways.
It really could. My wheels are always turning.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people know you from Wednesdays on the Waterfront, which we also start in a small way, and it's just grown, and it's become institutionalized now. We associate, those of us who live here, definitely, but I think from outside too, we say, oh yeah, in July, we'll have Wednesdays on the Waterfront.
Yes, it is coming back, so that's good.
It has to. I
Yes,
mean,
it has to.
It's
I know.
it's built into our culture now.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we love that. Vera and
Yeah.
I have been planning very diligently for this year's Wednesday, and this Sunday we will be announcing the lineup. So that's great. It starts July 8th this year and
Yeah.
runs 6 consecutive Wednesdays again. And we just love the feedback that we've got. We love that it's such a means of bringing people together, and people are happy and
Right.
smiling and talking about positive things.
Yeah,
and
so we
it's
should
just-
already start dancing to the goddess of good weather.
Yeah, yes, please do.
It's so nice when you have been so lucky with weather in
We
general.
have. I was just talking to this, and I think maybe to my husband, but
Mhm.
we have had, the first year we had no rain dates.
Right.
The second year, maybe 1,
Mhm.
and last year 2, I believe. So I think
Right.
we're 3 or 4 out of 18 shows.
Which is
so,
amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing. 'Cause July is frequently a wet month.
yeah. So start dancing.
Yeah. So how are you going to combine Wednesdays on the Waterfront with Pine Hill Kitchens?
Well, like I said, the webpage is coming out, and that's more to come on that. But I'm trying to work out the schedules. Last year, during the summer, I did a Tuesday, Thursday class. So Wednesdays is obviously out.
Yeah, I
but-
guess.
but I'm working on some different scheduling pieces, and that is nice because I'm not in school and working my full-time job, that I have more time in the summer to play. So the schedule is still being fine-tuned, but it's
Do you
coming.
eventually see yourself transitioning into Pine Hill and your other sort of independent practices as opposed to a day job?
I do really love my day job,
Yeah.
and I've liked a lot. This year is my first year as a full-time work-based learning coordinator, and I get to be in the community, which is, it's really,
That's really neat.
I had a student come back who was in Future Business Leaders of America with me, and she's off to college and just thriving and doing well, and came back to see some of her instructors and said, "Oh, this job is such a better fit for you," which was really just kind of funny, because she knows
Gee, I
that.
thought that was my job.
I know, I know. But she knows that I like to be involved in the community, and
Yeah.
and the work-based learning allows me to do that.
Yeah. Is that a program that community could be involved in some way, in a way that would be helpful?
Yes, if there's ever, what work-based learning is we try and have a student, we kind of look at what their interests are, and if they're interested in construction and they're in the building trades program, they may be able to miss some classes. I have students right now working for Spates Construction. I have people working for Charlene Builders. So they miss some class time, knowing that when they're on the field and getting that authentic learning opportunity, they'll be able to meet some of their competencies.
Right.
But we always are looking for more job sites. We also have students I have a student who is in the culinary program and really has enjoyed it, but doesn't want to do that, and he thinks he might want to go into law enforcement. So we just set up a shadow, and he just finished with the Vermont State Police, and he just did some ride-alongs, and he is going to Northern Vermont University for criminal justice. So it's nice to, you have the paid experiences that coordinate with your programs, but I think equally as important is finding out what you don't want to do before you go and pay for it
absolutely.
in school. So.
Yeah. Do you have students, for example, who are interested in retail, who could maybe shadow or part-time work at some of the local stores on Main Street?
Potentially, we do have a marketing program, and that seems to me like the logical place that they would come from. But we have lots of students who need jobs and are interested, and there's a work-based learning component in the high school as well.
Right.
My job is in the career center, but
Yes.
the high school has a little more flexibility in terms of,
They have an intern program.
they call it work-based learning. It
Yeah.
is an intern program, but maybe at the MAC Center, for example,
I know.
there would be students from the drama class and they could make some sort of affiliation. So ours does usually pertain more to the competencies in the program a student's in, and they then have to find how will they be using those skills, unless it's an unpaid work shadow, just like the
An
state
internship,
police.
yeah.
Like it,
'Cause most
just to,
internships don't pay either.
right, just to kind of feel it
Yeah.
out and see how it is.
Yeah. So if somebody in the community thinks that whatever their company is has something to offer, they should contact you.
Absolutely. You can look on the website.
They can find you at Pine Hill Kitchen.
Or Pine Hill Kitchen. But
Yeah.
look on the website, the North
Yeah.
Country Career Center. There's a whole tab on work-based learning, and it talks about it. My contact information
Yeah.
is right there. So.
Yeah. It's really neat. I mean, it appears when we sort of first start talking that your interests are so diverse, but what I hear is they all come together, which is really cool.
It's interesting, and it's taken me a lot of years
Yeah.
to really understand that all of these moves and jumps and the restaurant industry and teaching really have merged nicely
Yeah.
into a cohesive passion.
Yeah, and that's sort of really encouraging for others who sometimes get the feedback that they're so inconsistent. Really, can't you settle for just one thing? And yet, why should you? Because it's learning in every area, and skill building whichever way you go. And then in your case, and I'm sure for many others too, it just pulls together.
Absolutely. I know that there were times in my younger years that I think from my parents, from my former college friends, people watching just like climb the corporate ladder or go in a direction that just seemed like it had logical steps, that perhaps I was a bit all over the place, but I've always marched to the beat of my own drummer, and sort of, some of us get there in a different way than others.
And you have so much fun along the way.
Yes, I've had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we
In the
still have
linear
fun.
climb, it may be productive and fiscally more useful, but you don't have as much fun, I don't imagine. I wouldn't know. I didn't do that either.
No, I don't know. I don't imagine that you do, but maybe if that's what you're
probably-
into, perhaps.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah,
So.
it's interesting that some people feel they can make a career choice really early, and others, how do you know what it is that you really want to do when you're just starting out?
Well, I don't think that you should.
I agree.
And
Totally.
I was just working with the auto class at the Career Center on interview skills, and it said, where do you see your career path going? And I said, it's okay if you don't know the answer to these questions. I said, I'm in my 40s and I still, what do you want to do with your life? Oh, I don't know. I think
Right.
that's okay. And just kind of ride the wave. Like have a
Right.
plan. Should you have a, short-term, long-term idea and have some thought behind it? Yes, but it's not set in
Right.
stone, if you will.
Right. Well, those who did have careers set in stone have had a nasty, rude awakening when that career path got pulled out from underneath them.
That's true.
So to have multiple skills and flexibility, I think is a skill worth having. It's a skill set on its own.
For sure.
That kind of flexibility that allows you to step back and say, okay, this is what I've got in this hand. This is what I might still need to learn. What can I do with it? And how do I get those other components?
Yeah, and I think that what I've been doing has allowed me to access that creative piece as well.
Yeah,
So it's been a lot of fun, for sure.
yeah. And it's great modeling for your kids.
Yeah, I just want them to be happy and be kind people. That's what I want for them.
Yeah, and the kind to people is really important. And that, again, is something that I'm sure that you're teaching and modeling in your cooking classes.
Yes, there are classes that go smoother than others,
I can
just
imagine.
like any class in a school, any sort of school. There are personalities, just like
Right.
you might have at your workplace. But generally speaking, they've all been good, and I think that's my job as the facilitator to make sure that everyone gets to participate, and that someone's not dominating, and that
Right.
people are being kind.
And how to handle disappointment when something doesn't turn out quite as you wanted it to. Because I don't know about you, but I quite often have something that I'm cooking turn out not the way I wanted it to.
Absolutely, that definitely happens often. And I think it is practice.
Yeah.
It's right now I've been having some issues with my oven and the temperature.
Yeah.
So,
Don't we all?
make sure you have a thermometer in your oven, everyone, to check,
Yes.
because they do get so off. But that's part of the learning, is when things don't go right. And sometimes, specifically with cooking, when they don't go right, you found something that's really good.
Yes,
So-
exactly.
And I always say, when I'm at school, I would always tell the kids, this is why I'm not a surgeon or a doctor, or, and you burn the chicken, So, but
Except the same thing applies there, because if you're a surgeon or a doctor, you may think you have the diagnosis, and then you open somebody up and,
True.
something totally different. You better be fast on your feet.
true. See, and I
Same
don't,
thing.
I'll take my own pressure.
Yeah.
It's too much pressure for me.
You don't think a lemon meringue pie has quite the same
No,
weight?
not quite the same pressure.
If you're serving it to somebody, that's pressure.
True, but that's a pressure I can
Yeah.
handle.
Do you have a specific direction that you want to go with kids? I mean, let's focus on kids for a minute.
It's funny because kids, as you might imagine, love to bake,
Yeah,
and that
I did as a kid.
That's not my love. My love is to cook, and I think the real reason. Do I bake? Of course I bake.
Mhm.
And do I bake with the kids and
Yes.
recognize that that's what they want to do? Of course.
I've seen photos of
Yes.
some of them. It looks fabulous.
But I think for me, I really love to cook because it's more of an art form.
Yeah.
And baking is more of a science, and I like to sort of just throw things in and just experiment, and there needs to be some stability with your baking, and
Yeah,
there,
true.
and some of the chemistry behind it. But I really envision to try and tackle some more ethnic cuisine. I got a masala daba for Christmas, which is an Indian spice container.
Right.
And so I've been playing a lot with some different spices.
Yeah.
And I think just to exposure of different cuisines and exposure of things that perhaps young children are not getting as much exposure to, especially where we live in the Northeast Kingdom.
Right.
I think exposure of different kinds of cooking and cuisines, and I'm really open to anything, but I do love to cook versus bake.
Well, you've already mentioned tacos and teaching kids how to make the tortilla from the get-go and other Mexican food, which we don't have available up here. But you're already broadening that taste base.
I think the kids are shocked at how easy it is to press a tortilla. It's you know, and it's really inexpensive to make the tortilla. The ingredients are inexpensive, and a tortilla press you can probably find on Amazon for $20. So
yeah, and you can often get them at yard sales for a lot less.
Yeah, well, there you go.
And you can use the same thing for making wonton wrappers.
Yes.
Which again is really easy, and they're super easy to stuff and make.
Yes, we did some wontons, and the kids, it's funny, I've had a lot of repeat clientele, if you will.
I bet.
And kids who've come back and say, oh, I made these pork wontons for Super Bowl and everyone loved them, or I made this. And I have some parents who said, oh, so-and-so was cooking and she made the whole dinner tonight and she wanted me to send you a picture. So it's really fun to keep those connections
really lovely.
Going. Yeah.
Yeah. What a great fundraiser for Wednesdays on the Waterfront, too.
Maybe. Actually, you mentioning that, I obviously have ties to the school, and I'm friends with the art teachers there, but I was just saying, I saw something, and I forget the name of the fundraiser now, but it was a pottery bowl that was a food fundraiser. Do you know the name of it? Soup something.
I can't remember what the name of it is.
And I thought,
but it's done all over the country.
Yeah, and I thought, we could, the art, they always need fundraisers for their art enrichment trips, maybe this. So again, the wheels are always turning with what we could.
Yeah, and all you need is a kiln, and there are a lot of people to make the bowls, because the bowl goes with it. And a lot of people in this community have kilns.
Yeah, and between the community and I was thinking maybe for the school even, it would be a good school fundraiser for their, trip to Europe or trip to New York City, or somehow coordinate with it's great to, I think, work with other programs and see how you can and make yourselves fit together, and your trade helps my trade, and make something
and that's
cool
community
happen.
building.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You talked about you want your kids to be kind. That's being kind. That's learning how to work together, to value each other's skills, and just to bring it into something that's so worth having.
Yes, I think it's good for the kids to. I think volunteerism is a lost art, and I think that learning to give back, and we try when Wednesdays on the Waterfront was conceptualized. I was teaching hospitality and tourism at the time at the Career Center, and that became part of the curriculum. Those students in that class that year, they practiced pieces of marketing and designing logos, and they figured out what it took to create an event, and those kids worked that event. They saw it from the infancy to its fruition, and some of them still come back in the summers and they'll say, I'm going to be around, can I help out this summer?
Oh, that's great.
So it is cool for them to see that.
Well, we've now talked away our 30 minutes, and we've made up the minutes that we lost with a timeout. So thank you so much for coming, and as your program grows, will you come back and talk about it again?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. That was fun.